If you like this podcast clip, you can watch the entire episode by clicking the link down below or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Or you can check it out live on Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sean, I'm going to answer this question. If Joe Bonamassa sold all his guitars and started playing PRS, do you think he would still sell out shows? No way. You think people go to see Joe Bonamassa and hear his music and his guitar playing? They just go to see vintage guitars. In fact, I think he sells out the front row just from people to drool over his vintage guitars. Okay, now that the joke's out of the way and I've triggered anybody I can, Joe Bonamassa would be one of the guys that if he would to go to a brand, he would land a brand. And I don't know if that's the way I'm saying it's going to make a lot of sense. Let me give it to you this way. John Petrucci pretty much made Music Man. I mean, obviously Eddie Van Halen made it first, but he makes Music Man. I mean, John Mayer has done crazy things for Paul Reed Smith. Steve Vai and Ibanez. There are great guitar players, and there are great guitar players that can sell guitars. And the guitar players that can sell guitars are a unique bunch, and especially the ones that can sell expensive guitars. They just have this ability to incite other gear freaks into buying guitars. And Steve Vai is definitely one, and I think Joe Bonamassa would be one too. Obviously, he does really well with the Epiphones and the Gibsons he does, but I think if he would to merge up with a brand, PRS maybe, sure. But I mean, I think like if he was to pick another brand, like he could literally, because you got to understand, like what John Mayer did for PRS was huge. It's a huge improvement to the company and their volume of sales. So you can see it. You can see it's, it was a great cooperative agreement between those two brands, the John Mayer PRS thing. The John Petrucci to Music Man was a huge thing. And you can see it. And obviously Steve Vai with Ibanez and I'm not discounting any of the players with all those brands, but you understand those guys really changed the game for a lot of those brands. I think Joe Bonamassa is one of the few guitar players that could do it, could literally pick a brand that's not huge like Gibson and literally put them on the map, not to the Gibson level, but do the same thing that John did, both the Johns did for Music Man and for PRS. He could put them on there. As huge. I don't know who the brand would be, but like Heritage guitars, right? I mean, he could probably put Heritage on a new level because he's a gear geek. And I think that's part of that equation. See, because I've learned this over the years. There's guitar players that are great and they sell signature guitars. But then there are guitar players, like I said, that sell an insane amount of signature guitars. And the one thing they have, besides a ton of other things, is they tend to be a gear geek too, a guitar geek. And I think guitar enthusiasts are drawn to other guitar enthusiasts, a la why there's 1,000 of you hanging out with me every week. But I think that's exactly what Bonamassa could do, is put a mid-sized brand on a bigger, level them up. Somebody said, PW says, Reverend. Sure, of course. Like I said, it would have to be something like Petrucci with Music Man makes sense. Vai with Ibanez makes sense. And he would have to do what they do, because one of the things that those guys do that I mentioned is they actually play those guitars. I don't mean the brand. They play the guitars you get. And that really adds the credibility. When you see John Mayer, he's got the Silver Sky. Sure, he'll pull out those old Strats, he'll pull out a Jackson, he'll pull out other things out too all the time, but the Silver Sky is a predominant instrument in his hands. And same thing with Petrucci. You see him, it's only Music Man, Petrucci guitars. When you see Vai, it's always a gem. I mean, and when I say always, it's 9 out of 10 times. That's enough times. So literally, I think he's one of those guys that could level up a brand for sure. And if he went to PRS, it would definitely help PRS. But I think in the PRS artist roster, it might be crowded space for him now. I think he would be better off. Like I say, I think Heritage, right? That's the question for you guys. Who would be the brand you'd want to see Bonamassa with? Same with somebody like Slash. Slash left Gibson. I think Slash could level up BC Rich if they wanted to rebrand and launch BC Rich as a new thing. I think he probably leveled them up too. If you like this podcast clip, you can watch the entire episode by clicking the link down below or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Or you can check it out live on Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.